Hello everyone, welcome to Coach's Hour, 28th of June. Hope everyone is doing well. We have a stack of questions lined up. No, we don't. What a surprise. So more than happy to answer any questions. We've got opportunity to talk through our training. James can give me a live coaches debrief if anyone wants to. But yeah, has anyone got any questions to start us off? It can be really simple. It can be really
not simple.
Not simple.
Okay, so
I know we
can I?
Oh God!
Two at once.
Two at once. Who is that?
Whoever that was, it wasn't me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was me. I mean, I need to get new trainers, and I know we talk about this a lot. And I think I always wear Brooks Adrenaline, and I think a couple of people in this call always wear Brooks Adrenaline. And I just wondered if anyone had bought any new trainers that weren't Brooks Adrenaline, whether people just stick to them because of they overpronate and they're comfortable.
I know that Sadie. So Brooks Adrenaline, are these a everyday sort of like?
Yeah.
Shoe? Okay. So do you wear? Is that the only shoe that you wear, Susan? Just rotate different pairs.
Yes, I normally have two on the go, but I took two pairs with me at the weekend, and like one of them I had to throw in the bin because they were just wrecked. So I need to get some new ones.
So for
I've got another pair, a new pair, but I want to get another pair so I can have in rotation with a new pair.
Yeah. So Susan went to Glastonbury this weekend and volunteered, so that would be why one of them got left behind. Okay. So to be fair, if those trainers work for you, I would say stick with them. It's one of those sayings, if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing. But also, if you've got curiosity to try different trainers, then I would say go for it. I mean, when was the last time you had your gait tested, Susan?
When I first started running, so it was about nearly 5 years ago.
Chances are the amount of strength work and running you do, you probably don't need a supportive or a pronating aided shoe now anyway.
Because that's exactly what happened with Sadie. So Sadie always wore sort of like supportive shoes, and then went and had her gait tested, and because of all the strength work that she'd done, and naturally just over time, not only just strength training, but strength from endurance running, that they can see the difference in her gait. And so it might be worth, Susan, just going, you're lucky that you're in London. There's lots of different places that you can go to go and have your gait tested and see, because then as well, you get to, in the shop, try on different styles, because it's hard to just go on a couple of people's advice in the running hub because they wear these shoes and that shoes. It's like, can you actually go in, try some different trainers on, try them on the treadmill, and see how they feel.
So that's more important than the actual gait testing, is trying them on the treadmill if you've got a shop with that access.
And as well, like walking around, because running on the treadmill versus running and walking on the road can be quite different. So I think, Sadie, what's your kind of rotation? Do you wear anything else? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I've tried others because they told me the same, but they told me to keep the Adrenalines for long distance, but said for speed work and shorter distance I could try something else. But I've tried Mizuno, Saucony, Hoka, and I can't find anything else I like. So in fact, I've got 3 or 4 pairs of Adrenalines all on rotation, because they're the ones that I still feel more comfortable with. And I tried a speed shoe, and when I went to see Rudy after a couple of months, he told me not to, because although my gait was, my ankle had strengthened, I was starting to pick up niggles. So he advised me to stick with my Adrenalines. So that's what I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I run in the Adrenalines most of the time, but as an alternative, I bought the support version of the New Balance 1080s, which is the New Balance 860s. And I have to say, they have been equally as comfortable as the Brooks. And in fact, I liked them so much that I did buy a second pair. So now I alternate between a Brooks and the New Balance, just for each run. Each time I go out, I alternate. So it means that my long run sometimes is in a different shoe, but as an alternative to the Adrenaline, definitely the New Balance 860 is working for me.
Good to know. Thank you, Julie. And thanks, Sadie, for your input as well. That's the thing. It's just sometimes if something works, why not?
The thing is, like as Katie said, like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it is nice to have a variety, like Julie's saying.
Sometimes just colours.
Sometimes it's got. Also, your foot needs to have a little bit of change, just so the muscles and tendons don't get lazy and used to something. But I suppose the problem being, it's not a cheap game to just try and throw away. So maybe try a shop with a treadmill, or just make sure wherever you're buying them from has got a good return policy.
Yeah, I think, Susan, you should just treat it as a bit of a self-care exercise. Like, have a bit of research. Like I said, in London, there's lots of different places that have got really good sort of gait analysis facilities. So, you know, one weekend in the afternoon, if you've got some time, a couple of hours, go along, book an appointment, jump on the treadmill, see what they have to say. And, you know, because even I, a couple of years ago, got to try the technology in Up and Running, where I tried on my own shoes to see
Stride change to them.
Yeah, and like the energy efficiency in the different shoes, and that was also very interesting to see how efficient I was in different trainers. So yeah, I would just, if you haven't had your gait tested in a while, there's no point us saying buy these shoes, buy that shoes. If you've got the opportunity, go and try that out and see what they say. And if they say to you, just stick with yours, then fantastic. But I mean, I think it's quite important. We always talk about running, so I can always say we always talk about this, we always talk about that. Even with certain brands, in their different collection of shoes, you'll like certain shoes in the collection. Doesn't mean you're always going to like a different style of trainer for Nike, for New Balance, for Brooks. You're not, just because you like Brooks this doesn't mean you're going to like Brooks that. And the same with Nike. There's certain, you know, for us, Nike pace.
I bought the racing version of the Brooks, which was the Hyperion Tempo, and I hate them. I've worn them for about 1 kilometre, and maybe less than 5k, and they are sitting upstairs in my spare room, and I did not like them at all. But yeah, I live in Brooks all the time, and I did not get on with those at all.
Yeah, and that just again goes to show that different people like different things. Because it was only 2 days ago, whatever, Steph was saying how much she loves the Hyperion Tempo and that she lives.
Exactly.
That's not you or not Steph, because neither of you are wrong or right. It's just totally individual.
Well, if Steph's the same size as me, she can have my spare pair.
What size are you, Julie?
I can't remember what size they are, but I'm normally a UK 6. So, but whatever they are, if they're her size, she can have them.
It'll be a test now if she watches this back. But no, that's a great question, Susan. Thank you. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Right, Julie, what was your question?
So I had a couple of questions about Garmin and Strava.
Mm-hmm.
So get your Strava head on, James. So I want to know if there is a way in Strava to stop your activities automatically loading to Strava the minute you upload them to Garmin, or sometimes even before you upload them to Garmin, so that you can choose when you put it onto Strava rather than it automatically doing it.
Okay, I'd say the thing to do there is put your account to set them to private as standard, and then you just make them public as and when you want or don't want.
And how do you do that?
That's what I do. Mine are like that. Mine don't automatically upload until I choose to upload them.
Yeah, that could be very frustrating, Sadie, when I'm trying to find out how you've done at a race.
I'll wait until I'm ready to call you normally.
That's the thing. It's like sometimes when you haven't heard from a client and you're like, okay, they haven't uploaded to Strava.
So,
What's gone on?
Julie, if you just go into
Yeah.
settings,
Settings, yes,
privacy control,
yes,
activities,
yes,
only you.
okay,
And then when your activity is on there, if you go into the activity,
yes,
I'm going to go into one now.
And you edit it,
Yeah, and you edit it.
change
Oh,
the
yes.
title or whatever, you can then change the,
Then who
Setting.
can view? Just put everyone or whatever.
yeah.
right,
So I'd
Okay.
put that rather than it not go to Strava, because that would then be forcing them from Garmin and at different times. Whereas if they all still go over to Strava, you still your log, but you just choose what's public or not.
okay, that's fine, thank you. So, following on from that, when I obviously go out and I start a run, there's a couple of things I want to know. And you get about 3/4 of a kilometre in, and it flashes up on your screen a plus or a number. One, what does that number mean? And why? What does it tell you? And then on running, it's now started to give you other pieces of information, and I don't really understand what they are either. Now, I know that it's not massively important, but what does vertical ratio and vertical oscillation mean?
Vertical oscillation is how your
Start off with the
let's start with the performance one. So the number that flashes up is your performance indicator. So that's
Okay,
specific metrics. Essentially 0 is baseline. So if you're 6 minutes into your run and your pace is your normal pace and your heart rate is lower, you are performing well. So it gives you,
okay,
or if you're doing an interval session, your heart rate's low, but your pace is quite quick because you've just started, chances are it's going to be high. Now, even though that number flashes up, you can see that number throughout your run. So normally you'd expect to see it drop down in a long run because obviously you're getting tired. But
right,
for some reason it flashes up. I think it's about 6 minutes it flashes up normally.
okay, yeah, but normally it's just before I hit the kilometre mark for me, but that, because I run in kilometres, not miles, but.
So I would take that with a pinch of salt, because on the track.
Oh, I do. I just didn't know whether, because sometimes it says
Yeah, so
+4, and the other day I got a +7, and I'm thinking, yes, I've got a 7. I don't know what it means.
The problem with Garmin metrics are they're correct for that snapshot of what they're doing, but it doesn't know what your plan is and what you're doing. I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, and when people go, oh, it says I'm unproductive. Well, unproductive, if you look at that line, basically just means your load's quite high and your heart rate's quite high because you're in the middle of a block. So you're not unproductive, you're just not right. And then when other people go, oh, look, it says I'm peaking, I must be ready to race. No, that means your load's low and you're not working very hard.
Yeah, so that's never good unless you're
So do you know what I mean?
actually
Unless you're actually tapering, that's not a good thing. That's not like, yeah, you're as fit as you can be. It just says your two measurements you're working off against are both down.
Normally people get it when they've had say if they've had a couple of days off or they've been unwell, and then they're like, and then they've had a good run back because they've had a bit of time off, and they're like, where am I peaking? It's like, no, like James said, it's based on your load, the unproductive, productive, that kind of stuff. But the data that goes into that performance indicator is normally based around the pace you're running at and the relative heart rate, and it kind of feeds off of previous stuff. So yeah, I think once I had like a +8 or a +9 on the track.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great, but that's obviously where I'm running fast, and maybe at that snapshot, as James said, my heart rate may not have caught up yet because I've had the rest in the intervals. So, I think it sometimes can be an indicator. If you're like minus, we have it like sometimes on recovery runs where it's like minus something quite low, and you're like, okay, it's telling me off. But that's maybe where you're tired, your heart rate's a bit higher and your pace is slower, but you're on a recovery run. So it's actually your performance indicator may be like a -3 or 4 at this stage, but hopefully you're going to get it back to 0 because you've done what that recovery run needs to do.
In summary, the data on Garmin here is very, very good, but it's just not quite complete, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I understand that. It's just, if am I supposed to be excited when I get a +7, or when I get a +4? Am I supposed to think,
why not? Sadie's nodding her head there.
Definitely, especially if it's a morning run and I've got one like that. I always think, oh, I must have had a good night's sleep, or the body's feeling ready for this. So yeah, I like it.
Okay, then your other metrics. So vertical oscillation
Yeah.
measurement on how much your upper body moves with your stride.
Okay.
Okay. How you measure that to be good or bad, I don't know. I guess the more movement is the less efficient because you're wasting energy.
It puts a lot of pretty colours on the graph.
Yeah. And then vertical ratio, that makes a bit more sense. That's depending on how you're stood. So looking at the graph, you want to be green colours, but then red and purple just opposites. So I guess that's whether you're leaning forward or leaning backwards. But I think it's very easy to get lost in data.
Oh, I don't look at it and think, oh, I don't know what, but it's like, is there an ideal? Is there something that I can do to improve my form that would improve the numbers that would make running more efficient?
If you were going to look at the data you have, I would say them two are probably the least to worry about. I'd be more looking at stride length and ground contact time and ground contact balance.
Okay.
And metrics still. Now, the only lose my words. The only problem with that is if you're doing, say, an interval session, your average stride length is quite null and void because you want to see what it is for the actual things. But I would look at them more so, especially balance. Like you don't want to be seeing that 60% of your balance is on your right and only 40 on your left, because then that will cause a problem at some point. But there'll be a percentage in there, won't there, or 2%. But again, start looking at trends. So look what is normal for you, and then when something becomes abnormal, that's the issue more so.
Righto. Thanks very much.
Like going back to, because I always say this about Charlotte Purdue, she put up a video. I mean, I love her and she's an amazing athlete, but she put up a reel the other day and her upper body form just doesn't look like someone of a long distance marathon runner. But
She's the fastest female British athlete.
Exactly. So sometimes it's like, this is the same with the Paula Radcliffe, like head tilt, isn't it?
And Eilish McColgan.
Yeah, I mean,
Eilish McColgan was very young game as a runner, doesn't she? But
yeah, and I mean, sometimes then you go, you watch these track meets or you watch a race and you're like, wow, their form's.
You watch some of the Africans doing steeplechase and their form is awful.
Yeah, but so it's like, yeah, good to know what these things are. But again, if it's not broken,
don't fix it.
Don't fix it. Because I think with Paula Radcliffe, people did at one point try to stop her head bob.
Yeah.
If anything, it just made it worse. And
it goes back to the trainer thing, doesn't it, as well? Like, stop trying to change how you plant your foot and stuff, and just work to your strength and work to your movement.
But yeah, just general like work just by naturally doing drills before your intervals, your tempo stuff. It's just going to help your running form and efficiency anyway. So just, I think the biggest thing to start off with, we can say, is just make sure you do your drills often. And that will help.
Thanks very much.
It's good, and I'm sure informative for everyone else as well, because sometimes I look at Garmin data and I'm like, what does that even mean? What is that? The race predictor, I don't even like that one. Always gives me worse than what I can actually run.
I don't know that I have that on mine.
It'll be under your VO2 max setting.
As well, my VO2 max never, like, again.
But again, VO2 max is one of those ones. Like, VO2 max is essentially the capacity of oxygen in your lungs that you're using. How can your watch measure that? That's impossible.
Based
like,
up of like your wrist, yeah.
Like, there's nothing there that makes sense as to how that can work at all.
My
VO2 max hasn't really changed much in the last few years at all. Can't seem to get past a certain point, and that's it. But.
Yeah, I don't think it gives me. Oh, race predictor. There you go. Look.
Come on, Lily, what's it telling you? Come on.
Well, to be fair, it's probably not that far off. It says a 29:44 5K.
Yeah.
Well, I ran. What did I run on Sunday? A 30:26, and that was pretty much all out. I was done after that. A 2:29 half, a 1:03:32 10K, which is actually my personal best from about 10 years ago. And then a 5:37 marathon. So I'm hoping that if I run a marathon next spring, I can bring that up a little bit.
There we go.
And again, like it's got some data to back it. Obviously, the data it's working with, it doesn't use an individual athlete in your trends, but it's got some data. My saying of today is whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're probably right. So it goes with that as well, doesn't it?
Oh, have you
I
been
want
reading
my
motivational
VO2
quotes?
max to be 20.
Say again, Vanessa.
I was just saying, my VO2 max says I've got an athlete age of 20. So
Take it. When it says stuff like that, take it and run.
I know. So it is right. It is right.
Exactly. There we go. That's when the Garmin is right when we want it to be. No, good. Everyone's off to look at their Garmin data now. Fab. Good couple of questions. Good discussion points. Next one. Who's got something they want to throw out there?
Whose iPhone today? Is it Lynn or Dave? That's the two normal iPhones.
Da, da, da.
I think Lynn said she was running.
Breathe. Yeah, I can't breathe, so that's why I'm off. And my Garmin just said -5 on my 10 minutes cool down, so
But actually, on the cool down, it will do because you're not performing at your best.
yeah, absolutely. Just proved your point, there you are.
Exactly. Well done. Nick. You have a good session though.
I did, it was great.
Most important thing.
One tired legs, it was good. Yep.
It does. I'd love to open this question up to the floor because people, like, when they leave in their feedback sometimes, that they listen to the podcast whilst doing speed sessions. And I'm like, to me, podcasts really kind of not slow me down, but make me like consciously run slower. So like, to me, like when I'm doing like speed sessions, I have to listen to like fired up music.
Unless you turn up to a speed session with your headphones uncharged and have another meltdown.
Yeah. So literally, we're running up and down this road.
And the best thing is she put in her feedback, headphones not charged, lesson learned. But look what's on the side, not in their charging pod.
I was using them to edit the podcast just before this, so. But yeah, what does everyone else listen to? And I mean, Lynn's
I
like
listen,
motivation.
I listen to fast music and stuff as well. I put this on after I finish the fast bit, so yeah, I'm the same as you, Katie. I need speedy music.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't listen to anything. I've never listened to anything running ever.
If I'm running on my own for an easy run, I'll listen to a podcast. If I'm doing a session, I'll never listen to anything. I think that's when you got to get in tune with your body.
I love it.
For a long run for me, it's a podcast, and when I'm doing speed sessions, it's usually just listening to myself suffering.
Yeah, but I had that on the last couple of reps yesterday. James, we were running past each other like this, and he was like, "Leave your phone by the orange post," so that he could then get some footage of me running back. So I started like singing to myself, and then I realised I'm in the rep. I'm not going to be able to keep this singing up, so I had to stop it. Just focus on my breathing. I was singing it in my head. Works for me. But I love it when James goes for a run. He'll come back and tell me what he's just like he'll give me like a brief overview of the top things that he's learned in that podcast. So I don't need to listen to the podcast because I get a breakdown and find out all the good stuff that he's learned.
Well, it provokes conversation, doesn't it? But you can't really have a conversation with yourself when you're running. Looks a bit weird.
You could.
So what kind of things would you listen to then, James?
Well, I listen to running podcasts. So I'm just listening to people talking about running.
Fair enough.
Huberman Labs is quite a good one. Andrew Huberman.
What was that? Sorry, James?
Huberman Labs.
Okay.
Andrew Huberman. He's a neurobiologist or a neuroscientist at Stanford, and he's quite a lot of good like kind of information on that.
Probably a little too clever for me.
Fergus Crawley does some good ones. He's a hybrid athlete based in Edinburgh, and he
I'll pop into the chat. It's a really good one.
Sorry? Yeah, so he has a podcast called, one is called The Modern Mind, and he has a business called Omnia Performance, and he has some interesting people. But yeah, his Modern Mind one, he has some interesting guests on, and that's quite nice to listen to.
I don't listen to his podcast, but I've got do subscribe to his YouTube channel. So sometimes, do you know some of the ones that you're more interested in? We'll watch some of his stuff. But yeah, I'm quite fascinated myself by listening to people that are like hybrid athletes, that especially more so for like lifting and running, like gym and running.
Yeah, so Fergus Crawley, one of his recent ones was with James Newbury, who is a CrossFit athlete based in Australia. And that was really interesting. Not necessarily because it was about the fitness and what have you, but it was just about James's take on life and, you know, living in Australia. He's, you know, he has quite an interesting take on various things. But that was a really interesting one, and I did enjoy that.
Thanks to check out. Obviously, I hope you're all subscribed to the Running Hub podcast.
There's a good
Obviously.
Scottish one as well. There's a good Scottish one called Young Hearts Run Free podcast. That's brilliant and fabulous guests on them. But you might need some subtitles for some of it, but it's really good. It's funny and informative. It's good. I would highly recommend that. Obviously after the Running Hub one, but
Maybe we should create in Circle like a podcast recommendation list, and then we can like highlight certain episodes if someone, and the same with like books, because a lot of people like reading or even listening to audiobooks. Because a good thing with like audiobooks, sometimes I do this as well. If I'm listening to something, like just trying to like further my knowledge in an area, I love listening to stuff like, because some people talk quite slow, so you can speed stuff up. So you can listen to something like double speed or 1.5 speed, and it makes it go quicker, but you can still absorb the information. It depends how you absorb it in. So yeah, sometimes I've heard people will listen to audiobooks, and that's why, like, I saw something where they like I read X many books this year, and it's like, you didn't, you listened to X many books this year, but you listened to them all on 1.5, and that's why you got through so many. But yeah, maybe we can start a podcast and book club. That'd be a good one.
yeah, I would like that.
Yeah, I know that Lynn's messaged me a few times about books. Steph's really into her reading. Karen is into her reading. She always recommends books to me, so I'll see what she says.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, because I've always been asking people about different books that I listen to, because I always listen to audiobooks when I'm out.
Yeah.
And when Katie's reading a book, I get a bit of peace and quiet, so it's been win.
I love reading, so it means I don't have to speak to you. Okay, right, moving on. Any other questions? Any other topics? Anyway,
Who are we going to pick on?
I don't know, you can do the picking on.
Come on, James, you've always got a question for us. How are you doing? How's recovery from COVID going after your race at the weekend?
It's been going okay, mate. I've not really any questions today, mate. I've had really hard day at work, so
Brain dead.
he's up my bum, aye. But I know I'm feeling a lot better now. I think when I sit down to things, when I sit down to an illness and I'm not doing it, because I was off last week, when I sit down to something, I end up worse. When I'm up and I'm doing things, I'm keeping my head kind of productive, I end up a bit better. So no, feeling good. I ended up ordering that hydration vest I was talking about on the chat.
Yeah.
I think it was the ADV Skin 5. So it was a small fortune, so I better do its job.
Was it the salmon one?
The Salomon with the two bottles, but I was having a look at them, and some of them I couldn't see reviews on, some of them I could see loads of reviews on. So I was like, I'm going to go for that one because it looked, had a good big pocket at the side for like my phone and stuff. So I was like, I'll go for that. So just anxiously waiting for it to be sent out to me.
Yeah, I've got one of the Salomon ad.
We've lost you, Katie. We've lost everybody now.
Aye, I can hear you now.
It's just you and me, Sadie.
Yeah, it's just Katie we can't hear. Oh,
That's about it.
that's it. They've gone there. Can say what we like now.
We're still
They've
here.
just had enough of us. Just gone. They're like, no, we're talking nonsense.
We
Right,
still hear you.
we're back.
Yeah, that's better.
Yay!
All I heard was, I've got a Salomon one, and then it just went total dead.
Yes. So yeah, I've got it's one of the Salomon ones as well. Not sure what, it's one of the Ad V skin ones as well. I don't know if it's 4 or 5 or something like that. Might be 5. But I bought it in 2018. It was a pretty penny as well, but it's been so worth the
You told me you
investment.
got it for cheap.
Yeah, but compared to all right, let's not enter that. Let's remember all the trainers last year. But yeah, it's definitely worth the investment because like I say, it's lasted me like 5 years and I don't need to replace it anytime soon. I normally just like hand wash it or pop it in the bottom of the bath or the sink and with a bit of like soap just to wash it, so it just comes out like clean. And yeah, I don't use the bladder either in the back. I just have 2 soft flasks. It's got
That's what I'm going to do as well. Aye.
so like there's different sizes. So like say if you were going to be planning to do like a really long ultra where you'd have to think about taking extra kit, but for me I literally have 2 soft flasks, a handful of gels, can put my phone in there, some extra snacks. There's pockets around the back as well, so I can put some couple of, like last week I had
She had everything in there on Sunday, like
tissues, lip balm,
Mary
headphones.
Poppins bag.
So it's good. Just for me, I just find that having it for hydration purposes for long runs, it works a treat. So definitely worth the investment. The only thing that I would say is just it's nothing to do with that particular vest, but just with hydration vests, it obviously just kind of you sometimes feel like you're storing the heat, so it can make your core a bit warmer. So it's kind of like you want to take the vest out because it's a hot day and you want it for the water, but then at the same time it sometimes can make it a little bit hotter with that on. But no, I think worth the investment just to have water, especially for long runs during the summer.
Because I had one of those. I can't even remember the name. It was an Amazon brand. It was like £10, and it was like a wee thing you put around your waist. You clip it on, and it had enough space for your phone and your keys. But it kept falling down halfway through my run, so I'd end up taking it off and just holding it when I was running. I was like, this is useless. I was like, for a terror, it done its job for 3 or 4 runs. So
the problem is, I think with that sort of stuff, you do tend to get what you pay for, and unfortunately, this lovely free sport we do, you just need to put your trains on and go, isn't so cheap, really, is it?
I know.
No,
See, I had a recommendation for the Harrier one, but because I'm slightly bigger, I was struggling to find kind of slightly more run-of-the-mill ones to fit me. But I had a recommendation for the Harrier one, and I bought that, and I used it for all of my marathon training, and it was absolutely fine.
Yeah, Harrier, I was the Kinder 10 one that I was going to go for, but it was just I couldn't see pictures of the pockets on it. And I was like, I don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to fit enough stuff in my pockets for it, like gels and my phone and my keys and stuff like that. Because I tend to, because of where I stay, I tend to drive down to maybe like Strathclyde Park or just wherever, so I can kind of do like a loop somewhere. Round about my way, there's a load of idiots kicking about all the time, so I don't tend to want to run about it. And usually as it's at night time, so I need to then carry my phone, or you can hear my keys jingling about in my pocket. Not into that. But the Harrier ones look really well, and I think one of the guys said as well, it's a small company that run that as well. So
Yeah, it's a small
business.
Yes, it is. But yeah, I have a couple of theirs, and it's been absolutely fine.
Yeah, the brands that I've always been highly recommended are Salomon, Harrier. I think the other one's called Ultimate Direction.
Ultimate Direction, I've heard them. I've seen them.
Yeah. So I just think sometimes that, there's certain things that like everyone loves a bit of decathlon. And I think some things with decathlon you can buy and it work. But then there's some things with running that sometimes it's just worth that little bit more of an investment, which is going to last you for a lot longer than something else. But yeah,
Osprey do a nice one. It's a lot of money, but it looks really nice. They do nice like hiking backpacks and stuff as well, but their running vests are nice.
I think with anything though, it's just like, what do you, the cost shouldn't be about the cost, it should be about the value that it's going to bring to you and how much you're going to wear or use something. And it's the same like with any kind of bag, isn't it? Like, you can buy
Pence per wear.
Yeah, I heard so once they bought like a really expensive dress and they were like, basically it's cost per wear, so they were going to wear this really nice expensive dress a lot and they would have got the cost per wear down each time they wore the dress. So it's the same with trainers. How much do you value? Yeah, they can be expensive, but if you enjoy
using them all the time, so
exactly. That's what James tells me anyway.
See, my mother always used to say to me, buy it cheap, buy it twice.
Yeah,
I hated her for it at the time, but
you find that though sometimes that you'll just get certain items that won't cost a lot and you wear them all the time. And then
that's also true, but generally I think quality outwins most of the time.
Yeah. Cool. Next thing. Who are you going to pick on next, James?
It's your turn.
What, to ask a question?
No, I'll pick on you.
Where's Mel? Mel, is anything going on at work this week?
Any deers in the garden?
Yeah.
Hi. I'm actually off this afternoon.
Well, hey.
So I've been busy this afternoon because my son had a hospital appointment. So I had to do that instead. But yeah, work is great. There's a lot going on at work, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Just a lot.
So how do you find, Mel, because you're very busy, you've obviously got two young children?
Yeah, I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old.
Yeah, so you've got 2 young children, you've got a busy job, and from what I hear of James, you like to train, which is a good thing, obviously.
Yeah, this last week I struggled.
Yeah. So what would be, because we did obviously a podcast on that, how do you find fitting it all in?
You missed the most important part, that Mel's husband is a non-pilot.
Sorry, yeah.
Away.
So that makes
it. So he's away, so that makes it harder. So it's great when he's around, because then actually I can do the runs when I want to do the runs and fit it in when I want to do them. I mean, he's only just got back from Glasgow. He was meant to get back from Glasgow today, but actually got back last night. Haven't been away for 5 days. which is bloody exhausting with a 2 and a 4-year-old, trying to entertain them on your days that you're not working. And then the days that he's then off, I'm working. And then you're just trying to cram stuff into the days that he's off to be able to run. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Mel's not
It's a
good.
And it'd be
tricky
fine if work
balance.
was straightforward, but I'm a GP partner, so obviously got the stress of all that going on, and there's a lot of that going on at the moment.
Well, Jake,
Um,
you seem to do.
Yeah, Mel's being hard on herself. She does get it done well. She does balance it, however hard it may seem at the time.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, this week's been particularly tough. There's a lot of stuff going on at work, related with work. Like even last night, didn't get to bed till like 1 o'clock because I'm trying to sort some stuff out, and then obviously the kids wake up at 6 o'clock, so that's great. And then obviously I was going to do my run, so I did my run, and yeah, started off all right. Haven't uploaded it to
I've not seen the.
Excel yet.
I think what's important to remember as well, and this isn't just for people that are busy, it's just training in general. It's very easy to think, like you said, that I've had a bad week. Actually, training, it doesn't matter if it's a week. Like a week is dictated by the calendar, Monday to Sunday, but actually training can be 4 weeks, 10 days, 20 days, 16 days. So look at the blocks and how they build upon each other. So even though you may not have ran much for the 4 or 5 days previous while your husband's away, is what did you do in the 14 days or the 20 days before? And it probably averages out pretty well. You know, you don't lose
On the
it.
whole, I managed to do all right. I mean, it should be better because actually in the next 2 weeks, he's actually only got, I think, 1 duty. So he's only away for a day.
On
Which
the
is
recording,
great.
should be better. You heard that, everybody.
Really got the
So that
time.
should be good. But I mean, as I say, the run I did today, it was all going well. Everything actually felt quite good until 2 minutes into before I finished that second interval.
Yeah.
And I just hit the wall.
7 minutes is a bit of a weird interval, though, isn't it? 'Cause it's not long or short. It kind of just.
And I'm annoyed at myself that I hit it, but I think I was also dragging the dog along as well, which didn't help. So when it then came to the faster intervals, which you knew about as well, that I was meant to be doing because obviously I did the interval session, which was meant to be yesterday's today. I was literally dragging the dog. So it was as if I was doing weight training whilst trying to do a hard bit of an interval. And I was dragging the dog along. It was awful. And that shows in my pace. I ended up just, I think, giving up. So I can't be bothered to drag this dog. I think it's just hot.
Yeah.
Rather than thirst. 'Cause normally it can keep up. But yeah, hit the wall massively today. But hopefully after the events of this week, that actually I'll be nice and kind to myself for tomorrow's easier run.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Make sure it's easy tomorrow. Don't jump back into the tempo.
I won't be making it. I won't be making it hard. Don't worry. I've just got
It's
to
the
force
law of
myself to go out.
thirds, though. It's the law of thirds, isn't it? That a third of your runs are going to be amazing and fantastic, and you'll get the runners high and all the rest of it, and then you'll get a third of your runs that are just mediocre, ticking a box,
Yeah.
you know, just ticking over, and then a third of your runs are going to be much more of a struggle. And it's when that, you know, 33 balance starts to tip one way or another, then that's when you need to look at your balance and what you're doing. But if largely speaking your runs fall into that rule of thirds, then you're not doing that badly.
Yeah.
We're actually having this conversation with another client today, and it's very easy, especially we have a great community that shares their highs, but not many people share their lows. And we look on social media and everybody sees everybody's great stuff. So when you have your 33%, you feel very much alone. But actually, when you look at the bigger picture, as to one, your why. So a lot of the time, just kind of suck it up and get on with it and put it past. But also what's happened around you, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's different stresses, there's always an answer for it.
And I wonder if that's where actually it was, in some respects, a good thing that my Garmin automatically uploads to my Strava, because to be honest, I probably wouldn't have uploaded it. But actually, it automatically uploaded, and I've commented of myself on it, and actually, it's being normal. Everyone, as you say, it's not normal to feel really enthusiastic about running 24/7 every single day, and really have excellent runs all the time. That's not normal. And
Yeah.
I think you're kidding
And the
yourself
bad
for
ones
that.
are still part of the puzzle. There's still
Mhm.
bricks, that sort of stuff.
And
all the cliches.
I think that's very much like that in running. It's because I think with running, we choose to do running because we enjoy it and it gives us so many more benefits. Sorry, I'm just some background noise. I don't know what it is, but hopefully everyone can hear me. Yeah, so with running, because we choose to do it, and we talk about all these positive things that running gives to us, like mental health benefits, and, outdoors and the exploring kind of element to it. Everyone feels like we have to enjoy every single run because we choose to do it. Whereas I was also listening to a podcast today, and it was talking about, it was more like it was reference to gym and motivation.
It's true.
The gym. And it was exactly the same where this girl was saying, she was like, you're going to have some weeks where you don't want to go to the gym and you don't want to go for your walk and you don't want to eat the meal you've planned. And exactly the same with running. It's like you're going to have, certain weeks where you don't want to go for a run and you don't want to, do your stretching. But it's just sometimes, and I'm in that period right now, I'm having a lot of grumps about the hills here and a lot of like struggles with it, and it's just like, okay, well, training is going to be hard for the next few weeks. Sometimes I've just got to like suck it up and just,
because as much as it'll be hard, you'll regret it in a month, 2 months time if you've missed this opportunity, won't you? That's
and like today on my plan was meant to be 70 minutes, and in my head I couldn't think of anything worse for running on hills for 70 minutes all in one go. So what I decided to do is I was like, okay, well, let me just go out for a short run, and I ended up doing 20 minutes and I felt all right. And then James was like, well, let's go and do the loop that we did on Saturday. And then I was like, well, I'll just see how far I go. And in the end we ended up doing 47 minutes. So I'm down by 3, but we got to a point where it was like this really steep hill and I was like, I'm not running up that.
Sometimes it's just about reframing the language though.
Yeah.
It is reframing the language rather than I have to do my run today, as I get to do my run today, and I know that as cliched as that sounds, the way we speak about it and the way we speak to ourselves is as important as anything else.
Yeah, so it's just always about setting yourself up in the right way, whether that's the environment you're training in or the mindset you're working with. So the person that we spoke to earlier, we were like, you're doing a lot of the stuff on your own at the moment. Plan ahead, try and reach out to people for the weekends. Can you go and train with people, run with people? Because then you're not doing everything on your own. We're going to try a different structure because that's obviously individual to them. But it was the same thing for me today. It was like reframing it, right? Okay, well, rather than thinking of it as a 70-minute run, can I get it? Maybe the training benefits may not have been optimal because I didn't do them together, but I still went out and I feel better now that I've done it rather than quitting altogether, which what I was close to this morning. Tomorrow, we're traveling somewhere different to get the flats to be able to do our session. So again, it's just setting yourself up in the right way ahead of time. James had another conversation with someone about tomorrow's run, and already they're writing it off in their head. And it's like, okay, well, at the moment it is hot, it is humid, but don't focus on pace, focus on effort. If you've got a tempo or a steady run, all we're asking for is you to run a little bit faster than your easy pace. So if in that tempo and that steady effort, you run faster than your warm up and your cool down, then great, you've achieved it. And also if you have to stop, like maybe you had to today, Mel, that's fine, because at least you gave it a go, you gave it a shot, and your body just maybe...
I did more than if I just stayed at home and didn't do it, so...
Yeah. And so, like we have these conversations all the time, like we never as coaches want to put pressure on people.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah, we never, but like, we do obviously care and we are invested. But as long as you can come back to us and say, I gave that my best shot and I gave it a go, that's what we more care about, rather than being like, just didn't bother today because I didn't feel like it. It's like, Okay. And the same with races. We don't really care about the times. Obviously we do slightly, but it's more so that we want you to come away from those races being like, yeah, I had a great time, or I gave that my all today, or I'm really proud of myself. So it's essentially down to you, your efforts, and sometimes, yeah, pushing through on those days when you don't want to.
I guess sometimes also remembering, sometimes you just need to leave your ego back at home.
100%.
Yeah. And like, yeah, we do feel like our legs should be springy and poppy on every run, and we feel amazing, and we
You should get those paces, and actually sometimes you just don't feel it. And
No.
I think even last week when I got caught in that thunderstorm and doing my intervals, it was horrific. I just couldn't get my pace back afterwards. It was just awful.
About paces as well, because we see quite a lot of people when we set paces that are, I failed today, I didn't hit the pace. The pace is a target. If you hit your target every single time, we're not pushing you hard enough. That's not to give you an excuse to not hit it, guys, by the way. But do you know what I mean? Like, not hitting it is not failing. Like, talking about tempo runs, it's running X distance or X effort for that duration. That's all it is. That's what the training stimulus is.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be pushed. I think most of us need to be pushed, which is why we've got you guys as coaches anyway. If you just wanted to run, you'd just go off and run.
And I can guarantee everybody here and everybody in the community is capable of more than they allow themselves to.
The head. It's the mind, it's the head that stops us.
Always gives up first. Always, every single time, whether it's racing, training, whatever.
And also just know that whatever you're feeling, someone else within the community is feeling, because we we get to see the behind the scenes. Like, we get to hear of everyone's training and how it's all going, and there's always going to be someone that's had a bad run that day, or we see themes and patterns. On Monday, the amount of comments about Sunday's run being hot, humid, thirsty, run out of water, and it's like, I had to stop and walk and I feel bad that I did that, and it's like, I did a lot of other people, so you're not alone. So yeah, just always know that it's just, hopefully this week is just one of those, and it shouldn't even be one of those weeks. You shouldn't look at it like that, Mel. Today is one of those days. You gave it a go, and hopefully things will be calmer at work in due course. And then when your husband's back, you can just say, I'm going for a run.
And I will say, Katie, it is nice hearing from you, even on the podcast sometimes, how difficult or challenging you found things, because it actually just normalizes it even more.
I'll swap with you for a week, Mel. It's not nice to hear.
Yeah, you'll have a field day with Friday's episode, I tell you.
Yeah, but I find it interesting that I got a bit of a dressing down on my feedback this week, and then the podcast this week is going to be little Miss Coach having a bit of a moan.
I'm a hypocrite. As I say, not as I do.
Again, I was having a conversation with a client that's racing this Sunday, and I was giving them all the advice, and I was like,
you could tell I was just looking at this.
I was like, I'm going to put myself here, because, and I just said to them, I was like, how you're feeling is how I would normally feel, but as a coach, I have to say these things to try and build you up. So it's like, the thing is, I am a coach, yes, but I'm also a runner. I am an athlete, and I go through everything that you
do. As I say, not what I do. Yes. That's what I'm like with it, as being a doctor as well. You say the same. Yes.
Being a coach is great. Like, and it's the same in like friendships, isn't it? Like, when you give your friends advice about things in life, you're like, oh, it's so easy for me to say this. Actually, when you're on the other end of it, to actually do it is a completely different thing. But maybe
I'll have to start recording these meltdowns as evidence as well.
How much do you value your marriage right now?
Well,
during these meltdowns, I don't value it at all.
We're not divorced, so it can't be that bad.
I was just going to say, Katie, the hills, you will be in 4 weeks or 8 weeks time, you'll be like so glad that you've been running all these hills, because you really are going to feel the difference.
This is what James
keeps telling me. Yeah, I used to hate hills before I moved up here. Like, even cycling, I was just rubbish at going up hills. And I think when I moved up here, I didn't run for a few years just because I was thinking I can't do the hills. But it just makes you so much better, so much stronger. You don't realise until you go on the flats that, how how much strength it
Big
does
half
give you.
on the flat, back at normal altitude, loads of oxygen. We're going flying around the big half.
Well, that's it. So on the podcast, by the end of it, we come full circle. We are laughing about it, and even I'm like mimicking. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'll trust the process. Like, but what I said in the podcast is that like we've gone from Cyprus, where it's been really warm, so I've had to reduce my pace
And whinge.
and then I've come to Switzerland and had to reduce my pace even further because of the hills.
And it's still warm.
So it feels like it's still warm. It's not hot, but it's warm. So the trajectory of my data is going like this. So it's really hard sometimes to feel encouraged.
This is going like this.
It makes a lot of effort to motivate yourself, doesn't it?
Yes, this is the difficulty
do
that I'm finding. And then the next place we're going to is altitudes. I was like, then I'm going to altitude sickness. I can't win. Like, so, you know.
So yeah, worry about the altitude sickness now rather than just the day that we're in.
But in September, you'll be
positives out of
absolutely
it.
flying.
Well,
Oh,
that's
well, you know,
that's
there was
the
the benefits
hope.
to it.
Yeah, you have to look at the positives. Good training.
I know. Well, like every day this week, I've done a little bit of like exercise outside and just looked at the mountains and been like, just appreciate the view, appreciate the view. Appreciate the view. Everyone's like, oh, it looks so amazing. I'm like, you come and run here and then you'll find it's not so amazing.
I'm loving it.
That's what we find though.
But then I get told off for that as well. This was literally part of a rant the other day. I'm here struggling, and there's you jumping around like a mountain goat. Oh, sorry, I hate it too, shall I?
I think we said that in the podcast. I was like, there's you yodeling around the mountains. Oh, yeah, Vanessa, I need to come to where you live because I'll be fine. It'll be a breeze where you live now. But then I will always appreciate, so I know that you live in a hilly place. My client Helen lives in Wales. She's like a hilly place. So I will appreciate it now. And I'll start to understand elevation in feet and understand your runs and appreciate it.
Yeah, and then when people go like on a what I call just a lumpy run, you'll be like laughing at them because they'll all be moaning because it's hilly, and you'll be like, piece of piss.
Well, it's like Milton Keynes, isn't it? The Milton Keynes half. Vanessa was like, that was brilliant. And then everyone that lives in Milton Keynes, they're like, that was hilly. All the other passes. So even the bit at the end, Vanessa's like, that's a breeze.
Yeah, everyone's up this really steep hill. It's like nothing.
Yeah, everyone
and you'll be able to say that now.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be a breeze. So there we go. What a nice way to end. Everyone now is going to have visions of James yodeling through the mountains on his runs tomorrow.
Being like a goat.
Yes.
Although we're on the track tomorrow, so back to normal.
Oh, dear me. I was like, can we just do short reps all the time? And James said, no, we're training for a marathon. Okay.
You didn't just say okay.
Okay, maybe a bit more. There we go. So yeah, an insight into Friday's podcast.
Can't wait.
Good stuff. Right, thanks everyone. That was a good hour. Hope Lynn's cooling down now after her tough session. And yeah, everyone this week, don't worry if your run feels pants, or just remember mindset.
Just remember it won't be as bad as Katie's. Everyone have a good weekend. We're looking forward to seeing the Running Hub Scotland meet up on Saturday. Pictures, please, James and Lynn.
No worries.
And yeah, see you all.
See you later.
Hey guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for
Thank
joining.
you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.